What's going on, guys? We are here to give you an in-depth review of the anime Vinland Saga because we just finished it. Well, I just finished it. You'd already watched a couple of the episodes beforehand. So this is going to be a full spoiler-filled review of the Vinland Saga anime. So if you haven't seen it, don't watch this now. Watch the anime first, then come back to the video. Or unless you don't give a shit whatsoever, then you can keep watching. Doesn't matter. Just don't spoil it for other people. But obviously you can in the comments because like I said, spoilers. Anyways, this is my good friend Isaac here. He said I could use his full name because he's gonna put up a YouTube channel very, very soon. Link will be in the description to check that out. Talking more so about philosophy and just life in general, like a vlogging kind of thing, right? For the
It'll be my open vlog for anybody on a life perspective from my perspective.
Yeah, so like I said, so he's one of my really good friends, and we've watched a lot of shows together. We discovered Berserk together.
Yes.
Watched the anime films was our first introduction to it, so we watched that together. Discovered a lot of things together, a lot of good shows and movies and whatnot, and we're always kind of picking them apart to to discover the philosophies. Like if you guys watch my like Vagabond reviews or anything like that, and how I kind of pick apart the philosophies or the ideas behind it, it kind of all comes from conversations I have with this guy. Like we deep dive into this shit and just, I don't know, find out the true meanings of what the story is trying to tell us.
To walk in their shoes, to see it from a perspective that somebody else may not even see.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're going to do now with Vinland Saga. So we're just going to kind of go off the cuff. This isn't scripted. There's nothing really planned here. We're just first ideas. Well, first, I'll just say, since I just finished it for the first time, that last episode I really did not see coming at all.
It was impossible to see. I didn't spoil anything for him. I just watched it and took it all in stride. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, so I wasn't expecting it. Like, the development that happened between, from Canute going to the last episode and everything that happened that went down with Askeladd, and then, of course, Askeladd flying off the handle deliberately, like, on purpose, part of his plan, was to just, to kill the king, and then get Canute to step up, man up, put him down so that people would look to him and see him as the true king, and he's protecting his history of Wales at the time. Choosing not to go there because that's where his mother was from, and even though she was a slave, like his mother, like Askeladd cared, if he cared about one person whatsoever, it was his mom.
His mom was his soul's journey.
Yeah.
His mom told him the stories of Artorias from years before, and he lived by that code of there's only one way to treat people, and that's with honor and respect. He wasn't ever afraid to step up and just be like, you just wronged me, your life is over.
yeah, for sure. And then having that happen, and then Thorfinn's whole life, everything Thorfinn had went through from the very beginning. I guess we can go from the beginning. I guess we can hit it. It can be easier to talk about it if we go through the whole journey. So let's just go with the main character, Thorfinn, at first.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah. So Thorfinn obviously starts out as a little kid.
Son of a farmer.
Yeah, and it's kind of a tease because Thor's is kind of like the seemingly main character. Like he's the stoic warrior that's been through it all and whatnot.
It talks about him like you would think about any farmer. He's this powerful looking dude that's proud and strong and just stands there like you'd depict any guy. Just, who are you? Yeah. You're pretty cool. And then you find out in the second episode is when it really gets in depth.
Yeah.
About his backstory because he talks to Leif Erikson.
Yes, Leif Erikson, which is awesome. Who was a real person, by the way, a real explorer, and that's where we get the idea of what Vinland is, which we know as the viewer that it's America, but of course it hasn't been discovered yet.
Not according to our history.
Yeah, so to them it's this kind of magical, could be anything kind of place because, I mean, obviously the natives are there, but our main characters don't know anything about it really. It just like seems like this lush, beautiful, mysterious, unexplored region. So if anything, it's basically a paradise.
Untouched by modern man. Can you imagine seeing an open plain that had never been stepped on by a human? Or if it had, it was the American Indians who always lived with the land. You'd never know that it was inhabited until they came out of the woods and you were like, whoa.
Yeah, they would know you were there way before you would know that they were there.
You'd never see them, and then when they introduced themselves, 9 times out of 10 it was out of peace.
yeah. And so I like that concept. I like the idea of Vinland being that. I'm sure there will be more with that in the future as the series goes on, because this is only season 1, so there's going to be more to it. So Thor's, the first thing that I like really gravitated towards him was obviously that line he has about a true warrior needs no sword, which is so simplistic and like has so much meaning behind it.
Yes.
And it's really like the idea of like we're not going out for glory, we're not going out for the ego, for the you know, the joy of just war, I guess. Like what he means by a true warrior needs no sword is like there's no need to go out and fight.
You have
like,
no enemies.
You have no enemies, right? And his whole fighting philosophy is just strictly defense. It's just like, just do what you have to do at the time. Yeah, just
instinctual.
Yeah.
I base my life on a code of honor where I don't have to fight anybody. I've had a handful of fights in my entire life, and it's based strictly on the same philosophies that Thoris follows. He doesn't fight anybody, and he explains to Thorfinn, who finds his chest of warrior's gear.
It was a great scene.
It was so emotional because Thoris is like, whoa. And Thorfinn's like, this is so cool. They just finished a huge battle as a bunch of kids. Because he's just a little kid.
Like, he doesn't understand. He doesn't...
Yes.
You know, he just sees the glory. He doesn't see...
He doesn't see the real concept. One of the opening scenes is Thoris in a massive battle with one of his best friends. And they're just fighting. They're fighting for their lives on a massive sea battle. Thoris jumps into the water, and you're like, why did he jump into the water after taking one arrow? That doesn't make any sense. Spoiler, we'll tell you about that a little bit later on.
Right, yeah. And also when Thor's, when that slave shows up, I think that was the first episode.
It was.
Where the frozen slave.
Yes.
Yeah, and the one dude wants him back, and Thor's is willing to give the guy, like, 6 of their sheep or something like that.
Good
like,
sheep.
So a ridiculous amount is basically the point. Like, the actual number doesn't matter, but...
A slave was worth nothing, and he gave probably 3 times what the slave was worth.
Yeah.
Just to try and bring him back to life, because the slave was frozen in the snow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the dude was going to take him back to be like an example or something like that, and Thor's values life. That's why his family never had slaves. He was never about that kind of life and whatnot, so...
If you can't do it yourself, you don't need to do it.
Yeah. So right from the get-go, you just see this guy has just this intelligence that's just beyond where the rest of the world is at right now.
Exactly. His enlightenment knows no bounds. He's open to all perspectives on life.
Yeah. Up until you find out that because he escaped that way of life, he was supposed to be executed.
Yes, he ran away and deserted the army, which back then was completely against the rules. You were instantly put to death by the leader of the entire group. He was what they called a Jomsviking. Simple thing is they were the elites of that time period. If you saw them as warriors on the battlefield, you'd say, whoa, this is getting legit.
The troll of Joms.
He was the troll of Joms, and a troll back then was just a warrior that nobody could face, nobody could even look at without being like, I'm probably going to die.
So the real story kicks off when they're kind of lured into this canyon, but it's a setup, it's a trap.
Yes.
And of course Thorfinn has stowed away on the boat with his dad, and then Thor's is in this horrible situation where there are all these men that want to kill them. He has a 6-year-old son. I think we figured out he was 6 years old, or
roughly 5 or 6 years old. Insanity.
Yeah. And so what do? You just, but even so, he still just defends.
There's 100 men rallied against him. There's probably 40 archers above him, and Thoris is like, okay, I'm going to do what I do best. And he starts going through them like a machine.
Yeah.
He drops all of them one after the other, and they're like, what is going on? He goes through one boat. And everybody stands back and goes, who is this guy? I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
And he just stands there with quite confidence.
And that's all it is, too, because everyone else is like fighting with rage and fighting with, rage or glory or whatever it is, but Thor's is literally just defending. He doesn't have any emotional stake. Well, I mean, he wants to protect his son, don't get me wrong, so there's emotional stake, but what I mean is, like...
He's not out there to kill him.
Yeah, he's not putting any kind of extra thought or weight into his attacks. He's like, I just have to put you down, and that's it, and then I'm going to move on to the next person, okay, I'm putting you down.
It's when they first introduced the character Bjorn.
Yeah.
Bjorn eats a berserker shroom.
The berserker.
If anybody's ever had any experience with those kind of natural narcotics, they are powerful. And he takes it and he loses his mind. And Thoris goes, whoa. He just ate a berserker shroom. And for a brief moment, he matches Thoris with rage. And Thoris just manipulates him and hurts him enough where he's like unconscious and like can't recover. It's an amazing moment.
Even Bjorn with the Berserker Mushroom was still...
He couldn't...
Thor still didn't have to draw a sword.
Never. He never wants
to do that.
Bjorn at one point smashes him with both hands, and Thoris uses it to guide him to the side and just trips him. And Bjorn's
That's
like,
crazy.
Gets even more mad about it.
That's great. And he does everything. He's put into an impossible situation because it gets to the point where they're just surrounded by arrows.
He spots the leader, enter Askeladd.
Yeah, Askeladd, yeah. Which, this guy, his character is just threw me for a loop, dude. I could never figure out what exactly he wanted until pretty much the very end.
Exactly. There was no way to know because they don't explain it. Askeladd is just the guy that Floki, who hired them, is just talking to. And he's very calm, he's very collected, smart, always good spirits. Thoris sees him and goes, "Are you the one? Are you the leader of this band?" And he's like...
Yeah, he spots him out, like, immediately. Like, he doesn't...
He just looks at him and says, "That's the leader." He's like, if I kill him, or if I at least subdue him...
And you know what's cool about that is that, because Askeladd states that he can, by looking into someone's eyes, he can tell exactly what kind of man they are. I feel like that's the same thing that Thor's did when that's how he knew he was the leader. He was looking at all their eyes, and he saw Askeladd's eyes, and he was like...
That's the one that leads this rabble.
So they were already, like, matched on that level, like a warrior can sense another warrior like that, so...
And he calls him out instantly and says, "I will fight you, the winner gets what they want."
Yeah.
And then all that he asks is, they go free.
Yeah, it's
and then after
it's awesome.
The climactic moment when Askeladd engages him, he can't win. He tries a trick on Thoris, and Thoris sees through it just enough to only get a small hit. And he's literally beaten. And then enter Bjorn again. Bjorn comes through his stupor from the Berserker Shroom, and who does he grab? Thorfinn. He grabs him by the head, and he threatens to kill him. And Thoris instantly stops and goes...
Yeah.
He just loses his little sense of everything for a split second and goes... And he looks at Askeladd and says, "Okay."
Yeah.
And he makes the agreement.
And when the arrows come down into him... And he still stands there, too. Like, he's still... I mean, imagine, like, your adrenaline's going. Plus, it's not the first time he's probably been hit with an arrow in his life. So, you know, he's just like...
He takes, like, 6 or 7 arrows, and they're just sticking him, and he's like...
It's insane. And it's... Go ahead.
It's the beginning of Thoris's tale for his son. Because all he explained to his son is, you have no warriors. There is no enemy for you to fight. And Thorfinn, he's too young. He doesn't understand. He's like, I have no enemies?
Mm-hmm.
Of course there's enemies. There's going to be somebody we're going to need to fight. And in his moments, he's like, it's okay. And Thorfinn can't handle it because he's hostage. He's being held against his will. And then they just let him go because it's already over.
Mm-hmm.
All of them go free. Except Thorfinn, who cast away on his ship.
Yeah. And then you see a little bit... I feel like you see a little bit more in the anime of him as a child. Yes. When he makes his first kill at that campfire or whatever, when the guy... He slices the guy's wrist, I think. And then
a soldier grabs him.
A grown man. He's like 7, you know.
He's like a kid. And he grabs him and he cuts him. And the guy gets mad and goes to kill him. And the guy's not thinking about anything but killing him. And he stabs him and kills him. Mm-hmm. It's the beginning of the end for his consciousness at that level. Because once he realizes that you can kill a human being in self-defense in that way.
Yeah. And that's, and it's all downhill from there. And that's pretty much Thorfinn's entire character the whole season.
Yes.
Like, he doesn't really... up until, like, the last moment in the last episode.
That's how it made it so powerful.
Yeah, he's just has a one-track mind. He's just, like, looking for vengeance. And vengeance only.
To duel and kill Askeladd.
Yeah.
Askeladd became his one thought process that kept him going. He survives things that normal human beings can't even think twice about. They're like... So many people through the entire show look at him like, this kid scares me just by looking at him. And it's because his experience with life and death, it's warped his mind into one concept. Mm-hmm. Askeladd must die by his hand for his father's soul.
Yeah.
And his sake, he carries his dagger with him at always.
And the only thing that sucks is like when Thorfinn becomes a great fighter, a great warrior, can take anybody out.
Yep.
But then when it comes to Askeladd, he can't. He gets too blinded. He gets too emotional, like too much in his rage. He can't find that calm center. He can't.
When he's fighting anybody. When he's fighting anybody, he's so calm. He goes through a battlefield, and it's a war. It's a huge battle. He kills anybody that's not on his side.
Yeah.
When he fights Askeladd, every time he asks to duel him, Askeladd's just like, okay. And then as soon as he starts to really get into the fight, he triggers him. He says something about his father. He says something about him being stupid as a warrior. Not having skills.
Who is your dad? I don't remember. You know, stupid shit that's going to, like, mess with Thorfinn's mind and give him the upper hand. Because all you need in a fight is just that 1 second of the upper hand. Oh. And Askeladd knows that, and he's just like, you know, this is why you're stupid.
Watch any true warriors, and you'll know that a fight comes down to exactly 4 to 5 seconds.
Yeah.
With a killing blow. If you're in a real fight for your life,
most fights don't last very long.
I think the longest fight I've found from Real Warriors concept was like 7 minutes, which is absolutely insane.
That's like 5 hours in an actual fight.
Yes,
the way your perception of time, how like time slows down.
Exactly. The calm sets in, and you're like, what just happened? And it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah,
and you're like, I'm exhausted.
I even remember, because when I was a teenager, I did martial arts, and when we did the sparring sessions, they'd be like 30-second rounds, and like you'd be fighting, and you're like, Jesus, when's this gonna end? You know what I mean? Like,
your physical exertion is
crazy.
over.
Like 30 seconds is a long time when you're fighting.
Yes, 30 seconds, and
yeah. Anyways, so that's Thorfinn's like basically whole character for this season. Is just that rage. So the other characters we have to talk about. We talked about Askeladd a little bit, but we could get into a little bit more of him.
Askeladd is like
so
mystery.
His character slowly unravels throughout the season. We learn more and more about him. Because at first I thought he was just really like a carefree, like mercenary. I don't give a fuck what happened. I'll take any job, like whatever. Yeah. But as time goes on and you learn more of his backstory, you see he kind of does have more of a plan than originally intended. He's not so much like just live day to day. Like he kind of has an idea of what he's doing. He just was stuck for a while because he wound up getting this whole crew of Vikings.
100 soldiers, which Danes, you don't figure out. They're Danes.
Which he doesn't even like Danes at all.
That bomb is dropped halfway through when he starts telling his backstory. He starts talking about Wales. He starts talking about the history of England. And the in-depth part about that is England was originally Celts. They were just Native Americans. Celts were the people that lived with the land. The Romans came in and said, hey, we're going to teach you some stuff if you're good with it. Because most people don't realize that Rome conquered, but the first thing they would do is say, do you want to be our vessels? By the way, we don't have to fight if you don't want to. We'll just teach you agricultural shit. We'll teach you about an aqueduct, which everybody knows can be a groove in the ground.
Yeah, and that really, like, that threw me off when I was watching that scene.
Me too.
I didn't expect that to happen at all.
The only key you get is his armor. Askeladd wears
which you Roman picked up on. I didn't even know that.
And the breastplate is solid bronze, which is one of the most strongest armors back then. And a budkin arrow, which is just the equivalent of a bullet that's made for piercing armor. Can't go into bronze. It's too soft. You could get hit by it. The arrow will stick to you probably half an inch. And he wears it through the whole show, and you don't tell until he gets hit by it. Yeah. And it goes tink, and he's like, ow!
Yeah, it definitely sets him apart from everybody else.
He's very prestigious. And Romans were always known for their flair. Their soldiers wore armor that nowadays would be the equivalent of the highest paid armor you can get. Especially the centurions.
Yeah. And so, and we also have Thorkel. Who, I love this character.
The Invincible.
I can't wait to see more of him if he continues to be in the story, because this guy's just... First of all, he's batshit crazy. Like
you only see him for a small glimpse.
He's just like, all he cares about is war.
Killing. Like, you're dead if you get into this guy's face. He's all about
Valhalla and the Viking way and all of that stuff. Like, die with the sword. He only respects you if you fight on the battlefield. He is absolutely like... I don't want to use the word meat-headed because I feel like he does have intelligence, but like he's just...
I think the word for him would be warmonger.
Just warmonger.
He loves war. He lives and feasts on the fight.
Every part of his life is that.
He's fought in every battle, and the final episodes he's 50 years old.
Yeah.
And he's been fighting since he was a teen. And his physical physique, he's 8 feet tall, and he's built like
just a monster.
The mountain.
Yeah, we said like the mountain from Game of Thrones. Like he's just like gigantic, and you know he's swinging logs around and whatnot. And he fights Thorfinn with just his fists at first. The first time they fight,
yes.
He's just like
he's met on London Bridge.
Yeah, which is just crazy. He loses 2 of his fingers, and he like doesn't even care because he's just so like, oh,
that hurt.
This is great.
Good hit.
And then he in the second fight, he loses his eye. Gets gouged out.
He
and
literally
he still,
gets
like,
kicked.
doesn't even hold a grudge about it. He's just like, that's just part of battle. That's just part of war.
He beat him legit.
Yeah.
From Askeladd's help. It was the moment of when you realize that Askeladd had more on his mind than just killing Thorfinn. Every time he fights him, he doesn't kill him. A duel back then was either to the death or whatever the winner decided. And Askeladd always just beats the crap out of Thorfinn and says, have you learned anything? I make you angry, you rage at me. I beat you up, and you're done. It's a fantastic concept that most people are like, what is a duel? A duel is a stand between 2 people that have a difference in opinion that are either fighting to the death or to the one who loses.
And it's whatever the rules determined by those 2 people. You know, it's like, this is what is it going to be? Is this a death match? Is this what, you know?
Is this a duel to the submission? Is this a duel to the death? Is this a duel to submission means anything. You could pummel somebody into submission.
Yeah. And he had to accept every time too. Askeladd did, because Thorfinn, he couldn't just fight him anytime he wanted to. He's like, you have to accept this challenge, and I have to beat you. So. That's why Askeladd would get him to do all this like grunt work and whatnot.
Yes.
It's like, well, if you go take the head off this,
the commander of the enemy army,
then I'll fight you. Like he's just, and he's using them. He's playing. He knows exactly what, especially when you learn Askeladd's backstory later.
Yes, he's
like,
a genius.
The rage that he had for his father, he sees that rage in Thorfinn, so he can just like. He's just a puppeteer. He's just,
I feel like we should mention, the only glimpse you get into Askeladd's true character is after Thoris goes through an entire ship of his 100 men. After going through them, after he kills Thoris, he goes, how many are dead? And the guy looks at him and goes, none. He's like, they're just hurt. And he goes,
yeah, it's this
It's the only inclination you get that Askeladd even has a heart. And he goes, none?
Yeah.
He's like, how did he die? And I love the animation and the voicing over it because I love the Japanese accent.
Yeah. It's such a big revelation because like he doesn't know at that point. He hasn't gone and checked all the bodies and whatnot.
Let's put it this way.
He's just assuming, oh, this is a regular fighter like anybody else.
He's killing them.
Yeah.
The way he goes through them, they're broken in ways that you don't want to be broken.
Yeah. But still alive.
All of them are still kicking. After a few months, they'll be good to go.
Yeah. So we have that. Canute and Ragnar. We got to talk about them. Canute
and Ragnar
has a very interesting arc in this storyline because he starts off as, well, first of all, everyone thinks he's a woman.
He's a very
delicate
looking
features. Yeah.
The only thing you can compare him to is Gareth.
Or Griffith.
Oh, Griffith.
Griffith, yeah.
He looks very feminine wild. He's got longer hair and his face looks pretty. You're like, wow, this dude's pretty. And all the Danes are like, are you truly the son of the king of Denmark?
Yeah.
His brother is Harold, who was another true character. Harold ended up, one of the first kings of Denmark and united the entire country under one king. Which is powerful because Canute's the younger son. And if you're the younger son in that kind of situation, Ragnar explains it best. Ragnar is a true character. He was a farmer that rose through the ranks as an explorer. Was one of the first people to hit England. Raided, I mean. They didn't do anything back then except come in, take people away as slaves, kill who resisted. They didn't kill them all, though. They make them out as terrible people. They mostly took them as slaves. Men, women, and children that didn't resist were slaves.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on in this series. A lot of slavery. I mean, there was in that time, obviously, but like you see it. You see it in the show. You see it a lot, throughout all the different, even all the areas that we go into. There's slavery.
It was a common
everywhere.
Thing back then.
Through all of humanity. Sadly. It's always been a thing.
Some were treated better than others.
Yeah.
The concept behind Askeladd's character, since we're on to him, right?
Yeah.
Canute and Askeladd.
Yeah.
Askeladd was a son to a slave. A concubine would be the way to say it.
Yeah.
A woman that was used strictly for her looks. Her father was a powerful Dane.
And then disregarded afterwards.
She got sick, he disregarded her. Yeah. Askeladd grew up very strong because of it, and his final backstory is mind-numbing. Do you want to get into that?
Sure, yeah. So Askeladd's father, Olaf. Right? Yeah. like you think Askeladd's a dick, but then when you learn about Askeladd's dad, you're like, well.
How does Askeladd explain him? He said he liked killing, he liked women, and he liked drinking.
Yeah, that's
three
pretty
concepts
much it.
back then that were very easy to do if you were powerful.
Yeah, and he doesn't even acknowledge Askeladd as his child. He doesn't even know Askeladd's his child.
He was a bastard.
Until Askeladd fights against him. Because he was going to slice down Askeladd's mom. And Askeladd jumped in as a little kid with a sword. First time he ever picked up a sword. Because he was just doing like slave work. He wasn't like training or anything. He was just like covered in ash all the time. That's how he got the name
Ash,
Askeladd.
manure, and he was just a peasant.
Yeah.
He was a slave to this man's villa.
And so Olaf didn't even give a shit about him until he took up the sword against him, and he was like, "Wait, are you my kid?" Like he doesn't even know.
Doesn't even care, and then he says, "You have potential.
Yeah.
You're gonna live with me in the hall now."
Yeah. And I like how when they're doing that backstory, they kind of make it seem like Askeladd's going along with it. Like, oh, he's acknowledging me now. I'll grow up, now being more privileged, more wanted. Yeah. But really, no. He spent that 2 years training so that he could kill his father, which he does.
He ends up killing his father. It's unbelievable in the moment, but you realize everything that he's talking about is a culmination to framing one of his half-brothers for his death. He kills him and his concubine at the same time. And he's like, huh! He's like, you should have seen the look on his face when he said, why? He was dedicated to his mother alone. He took over his mother, who was Wales. She was a descendant of Artorius himself. The Romans and the Celts combined. Some of them disagreed, and eventually the Celts were taken over by Saxons as they came in. The Saxons drove the Romans out, and he's a descendant of Artorius, is the whole concept.
Which Artorius was like the inspiration for King Arthur and all that, which I didn't know. I didn't know a lot of the history. Like, you know a lot more of the history
of King Arthur
of this time. Well, just of this time period.
Oh, the Viking era.
Yeah.
I like the Vikings' feelings towards life and death. It's always been an intriguing thought for me.
Mm-hmm.
More about it on my page, because I'll talk about these things that have been forgotten, what it's like to be a man, a woman. This show doesn't show a lot of womanly power, but before the Danes took over, women, the shield maidens, were a powerful presence. Helga. I'm Helga. She is the wife of Thoris, and she's the only thing that calms Thoris. They show it later on when Thorkill meets Thorfinn for the first time.
Yeah.
And Thorfinn meets him, and he's like, whoa. He's like, did you just say Thoris? And he goes, man. He's like,
it's the only guy that was stronger than me.
Exactly. And physically, he may not have been stronger, but his brain and his physical and mental capacity exceeded Thorkill's. Thorkill was based on orders until he met Thoris. And then he was like, I want to know what you're looking at when your eyes are free. Enter Canute.
Yeah.
Dude, Canute's transformation.
It's pretty incredible. You wouldn't expect it to happen whatsoever.
It happens in about 7 episodes.
But again, when Askeladd says that by looking in someone's eyes, I can tell what kind of man they are. And when he first saw Canute, he saw that he was weak, but he also saw that potential. Because do you remember when he was saying, he was like, him and Bjorn were like sitting around like the campfire or something, and he was saying like,
was he weak? Is he something that you're admiring? And Askeladd looks at him and says, I'm going to tell you the story. And he tells him a little bit about Artorius and a little bit about his backstory. And then he says, and I see potential. He's like, I could get behind somebody like him. He's what this world needs. A softer hand rather than a giant Bjorn eating a berserker shroom and killing everybody, even his buddies. Oops. I forgot you were standing there.
But it really took Ragnar's death to really push him.
Ragnar spoiled Canute.
Yeah.
The concept is, the king of Denmark didn't like his younger son. He gave him to Ragnar, the farmer. Successful.
And Ragnar gave him love, but just he pampered him to the point where
they call it
like,
prejudice.
Yeah.
Because technically it wasn't his son, but he trained him up and raised him as his son. He raised him to be a cook, an exceptional one. He raised him to have philosophy and an understanding of what they bring into the show is Christianity. And the whole point of that is that he was very peaceful. He was always praying. He had a priest there. He wakes up and realizes after Ragnar's death that peace is not what he conceived it to be. He thought it was, you be a good person, you go to heaven. You don't fight. And then a priest wakes him up to it later on.
Yeah, the priest, which he's an interesting character too.
Wobblefil or Wobble.
Yeah, he's like constantly drunk. But I love how he was talking about the concept of love and how the Vikings didn't know what love was. They didn't understand.
They didn't understand the concept.
They were like, well, I would die for my brother in battle. That's love, right? And he's like, well, would you die for anybody else? No. Then it's not the love that I'm talking about.
He's talking about the unconditional love.
Yeah, and he's talking about what I think like Jesus Christ was coming from, which when he hears the story of Thor's, who said a true warrior needs no sword.
Yes, same philosophy as Jesus.
He's connecting that kind of like philosophy from Jesus to philosophy of Thor's of like we don't need to fight. You have no enemies.
Exactly.
Like, same thing. It always comes back to those lines.
If I come up and slap you, you might just look at me after the first slap and say, "What was that for?" That's the concept of Jesus saying, you slap somebody, give them the other cheek, and see if they really want to slap you again. I go by the 3-strike rule. You slap me once, I'm going to say why. You slap me again, I'm going to say don't do it again. The third strike, you're out. I'm just going to
there you go.
Subdue you and be okay with it.
Yeah. So I love that concept, and I love the comparison between like Christianity and the Viking gods. I like when they're having that conversation, and the one Viking's like, I saw what this Jesus guy looked like. He was puny. He would never be good in a fight.
Yes, you heard the description of Jesus.
It was great. Like,
I see your call rates.
Because that's what a Viking would. That's totally what a Viking would like think of. Like, because when they think of God, they would think of like strong with Thor with the hammer.
Thor or Odin.
Like that's what they think of when they think of God. And then you have this like Christianity that's like this
based around a person that was not special.
Yeah.
A martyr.
So
a martyr to them is an idiot because a martyr doesn't stand up for what they believe in. They just die for it.
So like completely different
polar opposites.
Parallels there. God, I don't know what else. I guess just that final episode. I guess
the final episode is a culmination.
Like, yeah. So Askeladd kills the king.
The king insults.
Wales insults
his mother.
Yeah.
And says that Wales is only good for slaves. And you only get to see Askeladd's true power, and I love the way they show it because Askeladd glows. Yeah. They depict him as just heat coming off.
Like his aura.
His aura is nothing but rage when you insult something that he feels honor about. He's calm, but when he realizes that the king is going to subdue Wales,
and he finds he's in this perfect situation where he can get Canute the throne, and he can defend his homeland and go out in one final glorious, like standing up for everything that he fought for this whole time to get this far, to get Canute where he is, and to go from being, a working boy kicked in the dirt to this guy. Like he has this perfect opportunity, and he takes it.
Yes, he completely owns it. After Ragnar dies, you get a small backstory. Canute was raised in a Dane's hall. His brothers and sisters killed each other for power. He was the youngest. He's very soft-spoken, and he doesn't start speaking until Ragnar's death. It wakes him up to the realization that he has more power to do what he's capable of. Just by seeing that there's no difference if he lives or dies, biggest spoiler alert of all, the king wants him dead. Harold has been chosen to be the next in line for succession. Canute's dead. So Canute realizes that his life is forfeit, and he rules... subdues Askeladd and Thorkill the Invincible. Thorkill backs him into a corner, and Askeladd freely admits that he hates Danes. He's hated them with every ounce of his being since the first time he met them. And he starts killing his own men. And one of them hits him, and he goes berserk for a split second and uses all of his power to split a man in half. And every single guy goes, did you just see that? And everybody stops, and he goes, shit. I lost my calm. Everybody come back. He's like, I got to keep up this until Canute gets away. Because he has sworn his allegiance to Canute.
Yeah. He's like, I must be getting old because fighting this many people, and I'm like...
I'm getting tired already.
Yeah.
And he starts small talk. Because he's been friends with these guys for a long time. But it's not about that with Askeladd. It's about the simplicity of using crazy warriors as his serfs. They don't have a higher mindset rather than, you can go rape and pillage whatever you want. I'll stand back and let you guys go.
And he does many times. We see it happen, like the Christian village
Yes.
and everything that happens.
They don't have enough food to feed them all.
And so, yeah. And then I guess we'll bring it back to Thorfinn to kind of wrap it up. I think we've gone about almost a half hour or a half an hour. I don't know, but we'll wrap it up by just saying, okay, so Thorfinn now, his whole life, everything had been dedicated to killing Askeladd, and now it was taken away from him.
Yes.
Canute is actually the one to stab Askeladd.
Clean cut.
Clean cut in his lung. It seemed like. Heart, lung.
Heart and lungs. Because the first thing that Askeladd says, he looks at him just like Thor is full of arrows. He goes, "Is this your first time stabbing somebody, Your Highness?" And then he goes,
"You did good."
And then he spits it out. And what do you spit out if you're stabbed in the heart and lungs?
Yeah.
Blood.
And then Thorfinn just goes nuts.
Water.
Because he spent the last 11 years wanting one thing and one thing only, and now it's gone. It's taken away, literally ripped out of his hands, and he starts freaking out, and it's just crazy because he's getting emotional about this man that was responsible for his father's death, and also who has made Thorfinn do horrible things, and Thorfinn's dedicated his life to this man's demise. And then it's all over, and then you get that symbolism of him dropping the knife dagger as he's being pulled away.
And his life flashes before his eyes.
Yeah, and I really like how they did that in the show.
He's only 16 years old.
Yeah.
16 or 17 is the number we can hand to him. And his entire 17 years flash before his eyes when he realizes, whoa, that was it. I don't need to avenge my father anymore. Because even Askeladd said, "What are you going to do?"
Yeah, what are you going to do now? And it's just like...
I'm dead. He's screaming at him, losing his mind.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess... Final thoughts is just like I really enjoyed this series. I started it was recommended. How I found it was one of the highest recommended mangas to me because I was like, what should I review on the channel next? And it was like Vinland Saga and Attack on Titan were the two highest, but Vinland Saga was like the most highest.
Yeah.
So I started to read it and I really liked it, and then I saw like the anime was on Amazon, so I was like, all right, I'll watch a few episodes, and I was just like, holy shit, Isaac needs to see this.
The philosophies are powerful.
Because you would love it. And you did, and so I was I was blown away by the series. I thought it was really good. I really hope they make a season 2.
Yes.
Because I think there's still a lot of potential for this show. I think seeing Thorfinn's development now, how is he going to handle life without this?
They show him in his probably later 20s. I'm really curious about.
Yeah, and I don't know if it'll pick up from there or if it'll go like back. To show him grow into that.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping is like a prequel to the end of this one.
Yeah, and then he still has to hopefully see his mom again, his sister, all those people. And then, like I said, like Canute is now in a crazy new position that he's never been in before, so there's places you can go with that. I'm sure there's new characters to introduce.
Every time.
Thorkill's still around, so like, I feel like this was an arc of the show. So we completed an arc. But obviously the manga is still going after this, so there's still more places to go.
It's in development, right? So it's literally...
It's still coming out, so I don't know how far. I think this goes up to, like, book 4, and I'm pretty sure there's, like, 9 or 10 books, I'm pretty sure.
Now I need to read them.
Yeah. Or something like that. I'm not sure. Someone in the comments can let me know, but... point is, I really hope they make a season 2, because I definitely want to see this in anime form. And I hope it gets a dub, because I'd like to rewatch it in English.
Yes.
Also.
It'd be nice. I said I would do the English dub for it. I'd probably do one of the
voiceovers. You do Thorkill.
I do Thorkill.
Oh, this is good.
This is such good meat.
He's just sitting there eating like all that food.
A dude that's 8 feet tall and weighs 300 pounds.
He's gonna eat a lot of food.
He'd probably have to eat about 3 pounds of food at least twice a day.
Yeah. So to end the video, I guess maybe give people a little bit of an idea of what your channel will eventually be about, if you want to.
It'll be life's philosophies from my perspective on a modern day mixed with the honor of old. My Chivalry's Not Dead is my podcast. And I just talk about life's perspectives from an old and a new perspective. When you surpass the containment of religion, you don't put yourself in a box, just have your mind be opened to anything.
Mm-hmm.
If something makes you mad, I will talk with people one-on-one, and if something makes them mad, I just kind of sit and wait. I've had people lose their minds, and that's what I will talk about is how to deal with a trigger.
Yeah.
From my perspective,
he's really good. Him and his wife, they've done like life coaching before and things like that.
Transformational speakers.
They've homeschooled all their kids, and they're like some of the smartest and strongest kids that I've ever met.
Thank you.
So I mean, this guy's been very inspirational in my life. So really excited to see you start up a channel, man. So I definitely want to help you out. And
you're helping me out right now. Thank you so much for having me. I'm here.
Oh yeah, dude. And if you like this review, if you like us more than just me ranting at the camera by myself, we could probably totally do more anime reviews or anything else, movie reviews or something. We could.
Berserk. I'll talk a little bit about what I know.
Yeah. So.
And all that I know from him.
Yeah. So let me know if you're interested in that, and then we could do a couple more collabs. That'd be cool with me. So, anything else you want to throw in?
Thanks for watching.
All right. Thanks, guys. Really do appreciate it. Like the video, share it with Vinland Saga fans, and we'll talk to you guys next time.